Well, it's a great joy to be back with you today with a brief testimony, brief devotion. I've made it a little more personal this round. I've titled it A Moment of Grace That I Will Never Forget. Those of you that have heard my testimony, you know that at the age of 21, I was called by Jesus to follow him. And it was at a storefront building in a small town here in Missouri. And I followed Christ with all my heart for a little over a decade. And at around 31 years old, I completely stopped following Christ and became, over the next decade, a prosperous working alcoholic. The success of the company that I had started completely took over all my life, and I became so very arrogant, prideful, hurt so many people, including my own children. I could not go a day without drinking, and over time became this self-medicated fool. Just a nightmare. But at around 40 years old, my business started to tank. My drinking became even worse, and within 9 months, I literally lost everything. And I not only lost everything, but I was in the red. So much so that I had to file bankruptcy. And so here I am alone in a little one-room apartment. And there was a man in Joplin, Missouri, who was one of my clients in my business, and he had invested money in my company around the 25,000 amount, and he was never going to get that back. So he would call me, but I would not answer the phone. Days went by, weeks went by. He still called me day or night. One night in my drunken state, I felt like I was drunk enough to just take the call and get it over with. So I answered. I said, hello. And he said, hi, David, this is Carl. And I immediately responded, well, I guess you've heard what happened. He said, yes, I got the bankruptcy letter in the mail a while back. And then he said something that completely shook me to my core. He said, David, I want you to forget about the money and know that my wife and I have been praying for you, and all we want to tell you is that we're behind you, and we're praying that you turn back to God and follow Jesus, for that will be your only hope. Now you can imagine I couldn't even form a word in my mouth or say anything. But literally for the first time since I was 21, I felt the love and the mercy of God wash over me like a flood until all I could do was weep. He heard my weeping and said they loved me, and he hung up. That was the last time I heard from him. But it was that night that was the start of my journey back to following Jesus for all it's worth. I was bankrupt, but I felt at that moment like the richest man in the world. I was a sinful man, a failure in so many areas of life. But God used a man from Joplin to show me the mercy of God, and I will never, ever forget that moment of grace. So I can tell you today that no one is hopeless. There is a way, there is truth, and a life, and it's only found in Jesus Christ. For God did so love the world in this way, that he gave his one and only Son, so that everyone who believes in him will not perish, but have life, eternal life. Something to think about, dear friends. Till next time, may the Lord bless.